Welcome back to Urban Arts Magazine's 40 Under 40. We have the privilege to highlight some of the world's dopest artists under the age of 40. They're doing some amazing things in theater, dance, music, film, television, visual arts, and literary arts, and the media. And we have another amazing artist with us today who is taking the film and TV world by storm, racking up credits after credits after credits. Help me welcome Jay Harris. Jay, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So number one, your resume is stupid impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how did you get into like the film and television world?
Well, I can say that I was blessed to know my path since I was a child. I've never deviated from where I wanted to be, behind the camera and eventually in front of the camera in some regards.
Mm-hmm.
But I started film because my grandmother, who was Mexican American, she actually learned how to speak English from watching like old Westerns.
Wow.
Yeah, and so her and I would sit and we would watch black and whites, and she introduced me to Dorothy Dandridge, and she's like, "That's you,"
Yeah.
So I could see myself at an early age on television. And then by the time I was introduced to Spike Lee, which like I've always been a kid who read all the credits.
Yeah.
So when I saw Do the Right Thing, I remember reading all the credits, and I saw he was the writer, he was the producer, he was Mookie. So I was like, okay, so that became my superhero. And it was from that point that I was like, okay, I need to know him and potentially be him one day.
Right.
He really showed me the possibilities. And since then, it's just been onward and upward.
Wow. So did you go to film school?
I did. I went to a lot of colleges, but I finished at University of Colorado, Denver campus, and Colorado Film School. I double majored in writing, directing, and post-production because, like Spike Lee, I understood you had to sometimes create your own platform. And I'm from Denver, so there's not a lot of people that look like me that have stories like mine.
Right.
So I had to be able to create from start to finish, from concept to completion. So, yeah. So
do you think that film school definitely got you, gave you a nice basis to where you are now?
I think film school was important back then because we didn't have the resources that we have now.
Okay.
Just like in having a network, my first job was PBS, and it was through one of my college professors. They could see my work ethic. I had won an editing contest. And so I ended up taking a semester off of school so that I could be a full-time employee for PBS.
Wow.
And so like that's what was vital for college. It was the connections and the relationships and everything that I built. But I can say that as I progressed, as I actually got into the industry, I moved to Atlanta in 2016. And when I actually got into the industry, it was always about the relationships, more about that than anything else, because you can learn anything, We're limitless in that capacity. So for me, that's what college brought. But in retrospect, there are ways to do it without going to college.
Makes sense.
And there'll be something I'll confess to when I'm like higher up, as far as like my degree and stuff. But I just don't see how far I get before we have that conversation.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll circle back around then we'll circle back around after the interview. Yeah. So like, to be honest, you don't see a lot of female producers. You don't see a lot of Black female producers at that. What has that been like to be a Black film producer in a white male dominated arena?
Well, listen, like I said, I come from Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
So I think part of that kind of trained me to be in the position that I'm in now, because I was always the only Black girl in the room.
Okay.
Theater, film, I was always that girl. I was, the outcast to some regard. And I always, I come from, me being from Denver, a lot of people have an image of what Denver is, but urban problems are urban problems. So I still had those same issues of like my mother being on drugs when I was a child and my brother being in gangs. And so those were the stories that I wanted to tell. And there was nobody else that looked like me that understood it. I remember in college, they made me bring newspaper articles to prove this was the truth. This was my story. This would happen to my family, you know?
What?
Yes. And I couldn't get the green light to do a project until I could prove. They're like, this just doesn't seem like a Denver type. But it was happening within 10 blocks of where most of these people live.
They just didn't know about it because it wasn't their reality.
Because it wasn't there, because they live in their own cave, you know?
Right.
And so you know, as I continue to grow, I continue to be that only Black girl in the room. Like when I worked at PBS, that was my first, like I said, network job. And it was me, and it was about 7 white men. And when it came to anything creative, anything that came to do with the post-production, everybody looked to me for those answers. And I was just a college student at the time. So I was always being groomed to get to that level because I knew eventually, like, it was always going to be me and that white man. You know, like, and that's the barrier I have to break to get to the next level. But even to this day, like, it still is, like, I'm still the only Black girl in the room on most of my shows. Like, except for Atlanta. I will say when I got into the field, that was the first time that I was around people that looked like me.
Yeah.
The irony of it is that they were mean to me. It was such a shock for me because, you know, like my first job was on Love and Hip Hop when I got to Atlanta. And so, I mean, I was so excited, but I'm a Black girl from Denver, so I'm a little different, you know, like I don't have the bags and the bundles, and, you know, like I was very much like my own style, you know, I was a little crazier back then than I am now. And it was the people that looked like me that treated me bad. And it was the white ones that were like, don't walk away from this. Like, you're smart. Like, you know, like people, it was such a shock to me, you know. But I will say that everything happens for a reason because it made me stronger. And then I did end up creating relationships with those people because they couldn't deny my talent and my work ethic, you know. So eventually they came to me for projects. Yeah, they gave me a hard time, but it was almost like boot camp, you know.
Right, gotcha. You were online basically in Atlanta.
That's what it felt like. And see, I didn't pledge, so I was like, "Oh, that's what it felt like." Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but then, you know, over time, now I'm used to both worlds. I can adapt to any setting, whether it's a whole bunch of us or it's just me. I can still be confident in my storytelling, and I can still say those things that people might be scared to say. I'm always going to stay true to my art and the stories that I want to tell. So I don't care who I'm in the room with. They have to deal with it, you know, at this point. So
I love it. So like in those moments where, you know, you are feeling bullied or feeling pressured or not feeling the camaraderie on set, like what would you say to someone who's in that same scenario right now? Like they don't know what to do. They think this is for them, but they're getting pushed back at every level. How would you have them like navigate those waters?
Man, you got to stay planted in your purpose is what I would say.
I want that on a shirt. Planted in your purpose.
Planted in your purpose. It's real because, you know, like it's so funny because yesterday I got a Facebook memory and it was me. It was like the first couple of months of me going to Atlanta, which, you know, me moving to Atlanta was one of those things that was like not planned. It was like I went for a weekend and ended up getting a job that was going to last 10 months.
Wow.
So that meant I had to drop everything that I knew, go to a completely foreign place, start over and make it work, you know? And so there were a lot of obstacles and a lot of things. Like I remember I was like, I can't do this. It's too much. I'm just going to go be a waitress. I've never been a waitress in my life. You know, I don't even have patience for that kind of stuff. But every time that happened, God and the universe would throw me a sign to push me back on my path. And so it's always, I think for me, going back to why you do any of this, you know, I know that I have to be the voice for the voiceless. I have to keep the legacies alive. Like that's what God put me here to do, whether I'm doing it through film or poetry. Yeah. As long as I have a platform to do that, that's what I have to do. So me working at a restaurant is not going to be planted in my purpose, you know, it's just getting by. And so I don't want to get by because I know all of those things that we need will come to us because they're already ours. It's just, you got to be on your path to get it. When you deviate from your path, you're missing all your blessings that are waiting for you, but you got to go through those obstacles. because it gets sweeter at the end. It gets greater later. And that's something I can definitely testify to. I had some hard times in this industry that, I mean, it could have broke me. You know, I was in a deep depression through the first 3 years of it, where I would go to work every day and lock myself in my apartment for weeks, and neighbors would be like, is she okay? Like wellness checks.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting by, but I was still in my purpose.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand it as much until I started growing and evolving more. So.
Gotcha. So, what made you want to be a producer out of all the things you could do?
I think that it kind of just happened to me. I've always just, it's just, that's what's necessary to create a project. You have to produce it, and producing is such a blanket term for so many different things, you know. I mean, because I started as an assistant, you know, a story assistant to an associate producer, and an associate producer does everything, you know. Like, I mean, you can put an associate producer on any job and give them any task, and that's their job, you know. So I think that it's just the idea that I get to create something, the idea that I get to kind of control a narrative. And now I'm in post-production.
Okay.
So previously I was more in the developing and writing of shows, but now that I'm in post, I understand that I'm dictating what actually goes out the door, what goes to the viewers. So when I'm working on certain shows, I get to kind of put my opinions in it, or, you know, what I think, and that gives me great gratification, because I know I have good intentions, you know. Like, I want to enlighten people and I want to uplift people, even on the most ratchet show. I'm still trying to find the light, you know, and trying to figure out how to put a message in there. And sometimes my executives don't understand, because I'm usually the only black girl on these all black shows, but all my executives are not. So I did Friends and Family Hustle with T.I. And Tiny and that whole crew. So, you know, T.I. can get real righteous, and a lot of times they don't understand what he's talking about, because they don't understand the struggles that we're going through, you know. And so I would incorporate those things. I would make sure that they were in my strings, and I would get pushed back a lot of the time, and then I would try to explain it. And sometimes I win, sometimes I wouldn't. But I think that being a producer allows me to have a voice in this industry and to really just make an impact and a difference.
Wow, I love it. So you told me, you said you worked on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. You worked on Family Hustle with T.I. What's some other shows that you've done?
Let's see. I did Atlanta Plastic. That was a couple. I think that did 3 seasons. I did Ricky Smiley for Real. Okay. I did. Oh man, there's so many of them. Ghost Brothers is something I'm doing now. That's on Travel. Fright Club with Jack Osborne. I can't tell you about my current project because they've already released the press release. I'm doing Surreal Life reboot.
Oh wow!
So they have Dennis Rodman, Tamar Braxton, Malcolm in the Middle, Kim Coles.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a cool cast. August Alsina.
Yeah.
So it's a cool cast of like very different people, and it's gonna be a good season. That's dope. So Surreal Life, anything other like major things you're working on in the future that you can talk about? I know some things you can't talk about. Yeah, there's some I can't, but I can say this. I have a project that I started about 10 years ago. And it was one of those things that was like my life project, and it like it has to happen, you know. So I got to work with Dr. Sebi. I don't know if you're familiar, the great herbalist and healer.
Yep.
I did a project for Common's father, Lonnie Lynn, who was being treated by Dr. Sebi. Okay. And then my grandmother got cancer, and Dr. Sebi began to heal my grandmother. Wow. And in exchange for me creating a documentary about him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, I know Nick Cannon has a documentary coming out, and that's dope. And I really hope it comes out, because I feel there should be 1,000 million projects about this great man and what he has done, you know. But he hired me personally. And we fell out because of his management. You know, there was a lot of things that went on with his company being compromised and stuff like that. So we lost contact for a while, and then he passed away. Well, after that, his family reached out to me, and they asked me to finish what I started. And so this is a completely separate project from what Nick is doing. It's a completely different angle. We're talking about completely different subjects. It's very valid to everybody who is building a legacy, no matter what you do, you know, and what we want after we're gone and how we want our children to be taken care of and things like that. And that's really what we're focusing on. And we're at that point where we're creating a bidding war between the networks. So this is very exclusive information. It'll all come out soon, but
you heard it first here.
Literally, I haven't really spoken about it, but it's happening. It's in motion. It's taken a decade. If somebody would have said 10 years ago, girl, it's not going to happen for 10 years, I don't know if I would have kept going, but I did. And over those 10 years, I was able to really like master my craft. And be able to tell the story in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do it back then. So now is the time, and I just think like it's gonna open a floodgate of more projects that will be enlightening and informative and, you know, uplifting and healing and entertaining. Yeah. So yeah, that's my baby right now. So
congrats. Jay, how can we follow you on social media?
Jay Harris on everything. J-A-I. Yep. Everything Jay Harris. Gotcha. And my website is serenecinema.com.
Serenecinema.com. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the lower thirds. Yeah, I'll put it in there. So can we play a game real quick called This or That?
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna start off really simple with you, and then we'll ramp it up just a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Cake or ice cream?
Can we do pie? No, just kidding. Vegan ice cream.
Vegan ice cream. Okay, vegan ice cream. We could do that. Vegan ice cream. Do you prefer intimate gatherings or large parties?
Intimate gatherings.
Why intimate gatherings?
Because I am an introverted extrovert. Like, okay. I'm very introverted, but when I get comfortable with somebody, I'm extroverted. So if I'm in a smaller crowd, it's a little easier to get comfortable, and then I'm there. I'm out.
Okay, I'm here for that. Boys in the Hood or Friday?
Boys in the Hood.
Why Boys in the Hood?
Because Boys in the Hood, I grew up in Denver, like I said, for the 13th time. And my brother and them were kind of in that same lifestyle that I was seeing on Boys in the Hood. But it wasn't until that movie that I knew I wasn't going through this alone. This was actually happening all over the place. And because you're in that little box, like in those smaller cities, you don't know that this is like an epidemic happening all across the nation. Like, we were in the middle of the summer of violence in the early 90s. I saw my brother get shot in a drive-by. Like, those were the things. So when I'm watching Boys in the Hood, I'm watching my life, and I'm Trey. I'm like, oh, I'm the one who's kind of like not into the stuff, but I'm observing it, you know. So that like really kind of shaped my childhood, and it was like a catalyst in the kind of stories that I started to tell early on in my career, like in college and stuff. So
would you rather stay up late or wake up early?
Oh Lord, I don't sleep. So I do not. Like, I might take little like 2-3 hour naps, but I'm not a sleeper. Like, I'm always up late, so, and then I'm up early, so that's a tough one because stay up late, I guess.
Okay, I'm cool with that. If someone said, hey, I'm going to give you an all-expense paid vacation, would you rather go to Alaska or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
Why Hawaii?
Oh, because I'm tropical. I need that tropical beach and ocean. That's why I moved to California. Like, I have to have beach access at all times. So, yeah.
Okay. Might be a little tough. Angela Bassett or Viola Davis?
Ooh. Okay, let me see.
We love both.
Oh my God. You know what? I have to say Angela, because just the longevity. Like, I love Viola because listen, I am a How to Get Away with Murder like
fanatic right here.
Fanatic. I will go back and start over.
I've done it 3 times already. Yeah.
Have you? Oh
yeah, it's ridiculous.
But Angela been there since I was a little kid, you know. So like I've grown up with Angela. I just got to know Viola. So
I whenever somebody says Tina Turner, I automatically think of Angela Bassett and not Tina Turner.
Exactly. Like when you said, I'm thinking of her dropping Trey off now.
Exactly. Exactly. Last one. Do you prefer to work on a laptop or a desktop?
Desktop.
Ooh, interesting. Why desktop?
You know, I got desktops all around me. One right here, one right here. I don't know. I'm more focused when I just come and sit down at the desk and work. Okay. Like the laptop, you know, when it gets warm on the lap and you got to put the pillows and all that. I come sit on my little nice chair and I like my desktops. Plus I edit on Avid and stuff. So I'm used to just.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, that was our game, This or That. It was dope. Yeah. So, Jay, thank you so much for having a conversation with us today, and congrats on being one of our 40 under 40.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to it.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. Hey, everybody, make sure you check out everything that Jay Harris is doing. Make sure you like, support, share all of it. Make sure you become a whole fan. Become a whole fan for sure. Hey, I'm Giles. I'm your host for Urban Arts Magazine Present 40 Under 40. Make sure you check out all of our other artists as well. Peace.
Thank you.